Okay, let's start this again. Alrighty. I'm acting like a high millennial now. With this phone and going live from my phone. But good afternoon and happy Friday. I hit something. Sorry. Oh, and I'm outside, y'all, bugs. Okay. We're going to go live and just share this video and post it to the other platforms because I cannot seem to post it from my phone as I thought. And something's going on with inside my office, and so I'm outside. But I am going to still move forward. So happy Friday to you. If you are watching this on my personal page, then you know me. But I will be sharing this across platforms. And so I would like to introduce myself. I am Shanquetta Cunningham, founder of Cares Group Consulting, where our mission is to support nonprofit organizations, mission-driven organizations, and bridge the gap between philanthropy and the everyday activities of what I call the everyday impactful leaders, to truly make community change. And I do that in various ways, not just nonprofit consulting, but also capacity building support and fundraising support. And so I took a couple of weeks off back to school, moving children around and our college student back, but I wanted to come back on and share just brief thoughts because me and this internet connection, we need to become best friends right now. But it is truly about philanthropy and what has been happening for a while, but I think for myself, as let me speak in this space as a consultant, and from 2020, while I know these signs have been there and they're always been there, you'll have trends, you'll have concentrations of focus for giving, but what I really wanted to just share briefly about is something that is, just kind of, not kind of, let me get my thoughts together. I see the trends and the impact of how it's hurting nonprofit organizations that are in multiple mission areas when funding is concentrated on one certain area. And I'm saying this now from a grant writer perspective, where you're looking at applications that may ask you, is your service duplicated? Or are you unique in your implementation? But then the focus area and the funding aspects of multiple foundations or given strategies are concentrated on one area. So you may have 20 funders that's only wanting to support, or 200, child poverty, and which of course is all grand causes, or a focus simply on obesity. But what happens when we concentrate funding into one particular area, it actually makes those type of questions hard to answer honestly, because really people move, and nonprofit organizations sometimes move in the area of what's trending in giving. And when you have to maneuver your mission to the trendy areas, it almost becomes a popularity contest, even if that is not the intention. But the implementation becomes that reality. And so it's not an indictment to say that trending has become popular from what I'm wanting to share. There can be some finger pointing, but what does that get, and where does that land us? I will just say that when funders and multiple funders, flock, so to speak, to one area of focus, then I often think about what are the other areas of focus that are not as popular, that doesn't seem to be trending, right? So going back to my previous point, because I believe I got off of that, from 2020, we saw the social unrest. We saw the last decade, funding going towards a lot of women empowerment initiatives. And so a lot of organizations were amplified, and, their fiscal, budgets were indeed heavily saturated, right, with funding unsolicited and, just identified because this organization, like Black Lives Matter, it represented the what quote unquote trending support, umbrella at that time. And then we have, again, all of the other movements that were a part of that. And then now, because these things are not popular anymore because of administration changes and those different contexts, well, where does the funding, apparatus lands now? It seems as if we're going to pick up in philanthropy another trending mission or trending topic. And I think that is more harmful to everyday nonprofit organizations, because we have such a plethora of issues to tackle, and because there are many things from the 7+ billion people experience, on our planet. When we concentrate and put our eggs in one basket of philanthropy, then we have to just know there are going to be some other baskets that will fall, which then has us right back to the drawing table, right, of how did it get like this, or why did this nonprofit shut down, or why did it close? And that's because we've made certain missions popular. We've made certain leadership styles popular. We are familiar with how a leader at one organization, was successful, and then they lead to go to another nonprofit. Well, that organization becomes popular. So it's from the high end of giving in general to even local leadership. And when you work with organizations that are investing their personal expenses, they are investing their own time into causes that are not on the radar, that are not popular, that are not trending, it kind of feels like if you're back in high school, that certain people only get selected for different things. Certain causes only get addressed because it's easier, or people will amplify the mission that they deem that is most worthy and will truly help our community, when in fact everything from saving the whales and humpback turtles to the causes that deals with child poverty or obesity or health or gender pay inequities, all of them are relevant and have its place. And so if you are a grant funder looking at this, or if you are the everyday giver and wanting to know, well, what is needed right now in this space and time, every mission is important. Every cause, it may not be a cause such as saving the whales relevant, because if you're living in Arkansas, that's not your everyday, you're not thinking about that, but it's relevant. And so when we begin to uphold one mission over the other, we're falling into, again, this popularity cycle. And at the end of the day, it's the communities that feel it the most. And I understand, because as a consultant, I always tell people, we can't go into people's homes and tell them how to write their checks. You can't come into my home and tell me how to spend, the money between my husband and I. I get that. I also know when there are moments to where you do need to adhere to the wisdom of the recipients, the wisdom of the individuals that are on the ground. I think that's why it's important for program officers to go into the communities, and not just the ones that are funded, into the organizations, right? And do site visits, or ask to just come and look at other nonprofit organizations that are doing work in the communities, not just the ones you know of, because all of us, until we're exposed to something different, we all have a limited landscape. That's why it's important for us to go outside to different cultures and to different parts of our zip codes to see what's really happening in communities. It's important for, officers and directors and presidents of, foundations to attend conferences. And an unshameless plug, you should be there next year in May in Jonesboro, Arkansas, at our 10th annual milestone year, the annual nonprofit summit of NEA. You should be in the room with people that are coming to learn how to, prosper and to elevate, the knowledge of how to efficiently operate a nonprofit and then the needs that they have. You have to get into spaces in order to really transform places. It's a must. And so my appeal to you, in a very candid, outside, little hot, no notes, because technology is trying to give me the blues. But if you hear anything from today, it's that every mission carries its own weight and impact. Every mission. I know that there are numbers. I know that we want to quantify success. But what I also know, especially in rural areas, success is also about the quality. It's about the stories and the people and the programs that will be testimonials for years to come. But everything that is measured may not happen in fiscal year one. That long-term impact is a part of impact. And I just hope that we begin to widen our lens for nonprofit missions that are not on the radar. That we begin to actively seek out. Sometimes many of us, because of social media, because of the internet, we can Google so much information, and we are so accustomed to getting things quick. And so we want to know what's happening, or we think that the most successful things that are happening are the ones that's being spoken of, or the organizations that's always been awarded, or the organizations that have the 20 person staff, that they must be doing something right. When from experience, well, let's just not overlook the 1 to 2 staff-led entities that are a phone call away from the people that they serve, that are not so far removed. There are organizations that are being funded and do not even have a relationship. The executive director couldn't tell you the people that come through, and I know there are systems in place, but are not even on the ground internally, but they look good on paper, and have all the check boxes marked. So, dear grant funder, please know that there are so many organizations that are yet to be discovered. And I truly believe that opening and widening the lens and the funding sources and outreach to these organizations, I believe that we will see a transformation in philanthropy like none other. So, after all of this rambling and different things, if you don't hear anything else, I hope you will take the time to even contact me and say, hey, who are some of the organizations that you know of that are doing work and they're not on our radar? How can we partner? I'm ready to do that. I am ready to share so many wonderful organizations. I'm ready to partner with you to go into these organizations and then train them in the areas to where they do need extra and additional capacity support. But they're doing the work and they're ready. So with that, I hope we can talk soon. And I do hope that you open up to other areas of pursuing and reaching out to those organizations and extending those partnerships. And I hope that you all have a happy Friday. And thank you so much for just hearing my thoughts on this Friday as well. And you all have a blessed afternoon. Alrighty. Good day.